My name is Tara Gibson, and if you see me looking down, I'm looking at notes and I'm trying to make sure I have everything on my phone because nowadays everything is electronics. I do so much writing for school that I have to do everything on my phone with everything else. So that's why I'm looking down. But again, my name is Tara Gibson, and I am an advocate for rape and sexual assault awareness. And this is really my first time getting involved in depth with advocacy for rape. I normally advocate for epilepsy awareness, and I wanted to take on being more of an advocate for rape. I said in my prior workshops that I spoke out for the first time about approximately 6 years ago at a Peace December meeting. And it was my first time speaking out. Next thing I know, to get the support to speak out further, I had an interview on News One. And after that, I think I maybe spoke one time. It was just kind of non-existent. I'm not exactly sure why. I haven't really thought that deep into it. But Sherneice and I have been on Facebook for a while as friends, and I saw what she was doing. And we've seen each other at a few events. And one day we finally just connected. And I feel that if I'm going to take that step in advocating for something as, how do I say, important, and it's a growing problem, I was honored to be a part of doing this under We Are Phenomenal Woman. I'm learning along the way of doing this. The first one was in March. I don't remember the exact dates. The whole plan was to do a number of workshops with a specific topic for each one. And little did we know or expect, the first workshop, we didn't even finish covering everything. It went into the second one, which is a great thing. So I'm glad to be here. I am in school for my doctorate degree. And while I am not a specialist by book when it comes to rape and sexual assault, I'm something that's even more important, which is a survivor. The best form of strength and healing and surviving something is going to a person that actually has lived it and has been through it, because they can relate to you. They can understand the feelings that you go through. They can understand the different changes that you're going to go through. They can even pretty much give you a heads up on what to expect. And there's no type of education like education coming from someone who can relate to the situation. Interestingly, I'm in school pursuing my doctorate degree. I have my master's in forensic psychology, and my whole plan is to, I have an interest with criminal behavior and mental illness. But interestingly, the course that I'm taking right now is surrounded by rape and sexual assault and sex offenses. And I'm currently working on my paper, which is a 20-page paper, and I am doing my topic on sex crimes with the focus on comparing and contrasting psychopathy and sociopathy. So how does that relate to what we're doing here? Well, I'm getting very in depth into serial rape murderers. And the two that I am studying very intently is John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy. And reading and going through everything that I'm going through to do this paper, where I have to place myself psychologically as a rape survivor, it's more of a trigger than I thought. It's extremely concerning, but it came at a very appropriate time, because one of the things I wanted to talk about in a future workshop is the mind of the offender, in order to understand rape and its surroundings and also prevent it, we need to understand the warning signs and what to look for in the mind of the offender, which is the hardest thing to do, especially if you have been raped or assaulted, sexually assaulted. Am I still here? You still have me?
I'm still here.
Okay, just making sure because I just heard silence. So today's workshop is going to be based on the healing process and the psychological effects. I have notes, like I said, but I don't have a specific outline because something like this needs to be a very relaxed and a very mellow type workshop. You know, I want engagement, I want questions, I want interaction. And I'm also learning along the way with this for myself. Believe it or not, doing these workshops, people may think, and I've actually had people tell me, you know, you're strong and you talk like you haven't even been through it. Someone told me that a few weeks ago. I meant to tell you, Sherneice. This was a very interesting comment because I tend to be that type of person in general with a lot of things going on in my life. I tend to keep moving and put a smile on my face, even though I'm dying inside. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But doing this, the comfort I feel, the first two workshops, I liked the comments I was seeing and there was interaction. And yeah, it was something I definitely want to see grow. But I realized something very important that has to do with healing. I'm not fully healed yet. And I didn't realize that. And I could be honest about this because as an advocate, the one thing I never want to do is come across like I know it all or like I'm not still learning things and learning myself. As you grow, you naturally change. You naturally learn more about yourself as you get older. Situations change, your body changes, you know, your interests change, everything changes as it's supposed to. And while you're going through that natural process of change, you start looking at things that you've been through a little differently. Mm-hmm. Things that you've never touched on before. And I'm learning that right now as we speak. And I'm going to be honest with this. For those who don't know, I'm in the music business. So, you know, the posts throughout my page along the day is I try to keep it positive, but a lot of music stuff that I'm doing, Seize the Cure things. And we've been doing this since March.
Right. So let's go back. When you said seize the cure things, for the audience who might not know what you might be talking about, can you break that down?
Seize the Cure is an organization that I started with no intention to start, but it's one of those things with advocacy, kind of goes further than you expect it. Mm-hmm. My son has epilepsy, and in 2017, I did an event, you know, correlating the music, and the Epilepsy Foundation of New York came out. I did 6 events since then. They came out to my first workshop, and they appointed Seize the Cure, quote unquote, which is the name of my organization, to represent the Bronx, which is not covered by the Epilepsy Foundation. The Bronx has no epilepsy advocacy. So the events turned into programs such as I just started the radio show for Seize the Cure, which is based solely on epilepsy awareness. I do programs in the schools. Going to start trainings in certain places and organizations. So it's slowly growing. There's very few people that are actually involved in doing the work for it. So naturally, it's going to move a lot slower. But I'm happy to say that we are currently going into the second part of our fundraiser. First fundraiser that I'm doing, and the funds are going towards the programs that I have implemented into Seize the Cure. And the actual virtual event, the fundraising event, is going to be November 21st.
November 21st, okay. Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing all the money raising now. But that's what Seize the Cure is. I post a lot about it. I don't have as much time as I'd like to post, but it's definitely something that I am very passionate about. So you'll see me post a lot about, that. Um, as we know, with social media, you get more attention with pictures and selfies than you do of the good that you're doing. And here's the point that I'm getting to that. I'm very passionate about C Secure, but I never take it personally when people that should be supporting it are not. And when I say support past a like. Pressing a like button does not mean you're supporting. It just means you're liking the post.
Right.
So I don't take that personally, because the reality of things fall into play in my brain when I think of things, and people will come to me and say, oh, this and that. And I'll say, oh, I don't care. It's just how it is, whatever. What I'm learning, though, is that since March, doing the rape awareness workshops, I've been watching who's supporting it, especially if you're in my personal life. Especially if you're in my personal life and you know what I've been through, you know how hard it was for me to talk. You should be the first one stressing this more than me, because I need that to lift me up to want to do it.
Right.
And I take it very personal, and I didn't realize it until today. I started thinking, like, wait a minute, why hasn't this person even tried to come and listen to what I'm doing? Why hasn't this person shared the fact that I'm doing this and it's taking place on this day? Where's the support? The personal support. And it had me very down. It had me very down, and almost thinking like, this is something I didn't realize would bother me. And it made me realize that obviously when you've been through something so traumatic, no matter how strong you are and how far you've come through it, you still need that
support
and that love and that upliftment. You need that, especially from those who are closest to you. If you're in my house and you're in the passenger seat of my car, or you're in my bed, or we're eating dinner at the table, you're the first one that should be stressing these workshops, even if you can't listen or tune in. Are you really there for Tara? Because this isn't about TJ Vita. Right. This is about Tara. And it had me very down, because I'm like, wait a minute. To a certain point, and Sherneice, I don't know if you've been through this, but it even had me thinking, like, why am I doing this? Like, nobody personally to me is taking this seriously. And then I found myself more and more lately feeling really upset about it, because I'm hearing, you're stressing this new song that came out, or you're stressing, gossip on social media. Where's the attention to the rape awareness workshop I'm doing in a few days?
Right.
Is that not interesting enough? Like,
that is so deep. I just want to tune in, because I think most of us is going through that, and I just found the number, so that's what I was doing while you was speaking. So that way, if anybody want to call in, a young lady, a young man, because older woman, older man, rape is not just a age factor. It's anybody and everybody could go through it. So if anybody that's out there, they would like to call in and ask questions, let's support what we're doing, because at the end of the day, we're doing it for not just ourselves, but for you as well. This is conversations that need to be talked about, all genders, or sex, or race are going through, rape, domestic violence, all these epilepsy, all these little, not little, excuse me, all these things that's going on. Some of us feel like I'm doing it. I mean, excuse me, I'm alone. You're not alone. She's standing before you, letting you know that this is what happened to her. You know, um, I've been myself been molested. I don't really speak on it that much, but yes, I have. I am in the midst of writing a book on it. So um these things is not easy for us to get on YouTube face to face. It doesn't matter. It's not easy for nobody to
Mhm.
talk about. And then when you don't have the support, and yes, I do understand what you're talking about. That support is real, and that only lets you know who's the real people in your life. And if you don't get that, now you send back you thinking about, is this person for me? Or this person needs to be in my company any longer. Whoever it is, it could be sister, brother, whoever, you're just like,
Yeah.
what's going on. But with that, um, that is something that you might, or myself, need to think about who is. And unfortunately, right now, I know that you have a GoFundMe up. I seen it. I remember you shared it to me. Um, I'm trying myself to get certain things together for myself as well, for my organization. Like, it's hard for us up and coming orgs, 501(c)(3) holders. It's kind of hard for us. We have to be out there all day, every day, but we have other things that's going on. But it does not mean we're not trying to get the information out the
Right.
best way we can. So thank goodness for Zoom. We're able to tune in from the computer straight to Facebook and still get it out, because of the whole COVID situation. We've really not around each other like that. So with that, I want to thank you 100% again for doing what you're doing, for taking up the time. You are in school, you're doing great work. And yeah, we really trying to do things together, her and myself, as a team. The Bronx, Harlem. I come out to your event, you come out to mine. Epilepsy, I did not know that much about it until you got on my husband and I Zoom,
Mhm.
the podcast, and you actually taught us some things that we got off the podcast and was like, wow, so you're doing the work. You're doing the work, and I want to say continue to do the work. Yes, those thoughts is, am I doing the right thing? All of that. Yes, you're gonna have those thoughts. I do. My feet, like this shoe drive I'm doing right now, my feet be hurting so bad, swelling up on me, my ankle hurting, and I'm like, is it worth it? And but it is. The shoes are going to Haiti. There's somebody out there that probably don't have no shoes. So I want you to just think out of the box and don't question yourself no more. You know, because we don't have the support from the people that's in our area, you still getting the support from other people who's watching. Because like you said, you saw the comments that people was leaving behind.
Mhm.
I had a cousin that shared her story with me because of you. So you're
Wow.
definitely reaching people, and
Thank
keep up
you.
the good work.
No, it's a learning experience. Like I said, I started this thinking, oh, I'm strong. I can handle this. I'm just learning something different about myself, that when it comes to this topic, a lot more is needed from the personal aspect, because I'm obviously, even though you read things and you study the facts,
Hmm.
you never apply it to yourself. As an
Hmm.
advocate, it's always like, I'm supposed to have it all together. I'm sitting here teaching other people. I'm advocating for other people. I'm supposed to have my stuff correct. And I forget, wait a minute. Who said
Right,
advocacy means that you're not still suffering? It's just that I'm suffering in a way that I didn't know I was.
right.
Because I had to really look at myself like, wait, why is this bothering me so much that people that I'm close to haven't shared the workshop or haven't tuned in? They're
Hmm.
worried about A, B, C, and D. And that's the thing. If it was regular Facebook people, I wouldn't care. Like, whatever. They're more worried about music and other stuff going on and gossip and la 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 la. But when it's people closest to you
Hmm.
that have seen you go through everything is a process. And this is what the workshop is about today, as much as we can get into. This is the first workshop you see a different background. Before I had a desk in front of me and it was a more of a professional setting, so to speak. I wanted to feel relaxed. So it's funny you said that earlier because I look like I came off the street. I'm in my tank top. I'm sitting on my bed because I want to feel comfortable and relaxed when it comes to talking about healing and the effects that you go through and the feelings, because sometimes we're triggered more than we think.
Right.
And as we're doing this, it may come time where it's time for the workshop, it ends, and then I'll get off and I start thinking. And it's happened before, telling the story of what I went through. I started really thinking back to a lot of things that sometimes you forget. My story isn't a one night story.
Right.
My story involved me knowing the person for a period of time. I was very young, so there were things that should have been red flags at that time, but weren't to me because I was a lot younger and didn't know any better. And as time went on, it went to that night that everything happened. And all I remember, on top of that, after what happened, it was a stalking situation. So this was like a long period of time that there's certain details and time and the timing of certain things that I don't even remember. And it's coming up now that my memory's starting to dig. I'm like, wait, this actually happened with him before the rape. Why didn't I see that?
Yeah, right.
And I just take, I was younger, and a lot of times we tend to try to block things out from our minds that are too traumatic to deal with.
Right.
And if it's something that triggers a feeling of guilt, or something that triggers off a memory that's too hard to handle,
you depress it.
Exactly. Especially if you're having to be a mother, or you're in school, or you're holding down a job, because you have to keep your head on straight so you can wear the many different hats that you wear successfully. So I wanted this to be a relaxing setting, more like a therapeutic conversation versus a bunch of facts, which is why we don't have the PowerPoint. Aside from Sherneice and I being too busy dealing with school and all these programs on the computer for school, no, let's not worry about the PowerPoint and putting all these facts up. We can worry about that later. Let's just make this more of a conversation.
Right.
So let's talk about the healing process, or should I say the process period, because everything is a process. One thing I want to stress is that there's no particular organization to the process of when it comes to healing, because everybody is different. Every victim has, if they've reached that level of awareness and acknowledgement to being a victim, they reach it at a different time in their lives. You may realize it right away. You may hold it in and never speak, and it comes out later on. Certain triggers that may bring it out: marriage. Okay. You may have been a victim of rape or sexual assault, and I'm going to use the woman as an example. And you've had a low opinion of men, opening up to men for a long time, and you never realized why. You never faced what you went through. And then you fall in love, and next thing you know, you're getting married, and boom, all of a sudden you're dealing with all these effects that you never dealt with before. Because now you're in a marriage, you're in a relationship, you're having to tune into an emotional connection that you've never experienced before, because you put that wall up all those years from your rape, whether it's rape, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's molestation, they all have the same effects.
That's true.
So that's one thing I want to say. The effects are universal, but the timing and the organization of the process, the healing process, it differentiates. It's person to person. It all depends on the person and the situation and a number of things. Another thing that needs to be considered when we talk about the healing process, and this is this is a whole category in its own. If you're in a situation where you cannot get away from your offender, that makes the healing process a lot more difficult. And I'll give an example. You just spoke about molestation, which happens a lot. Now, if this was molestation with a stranger, obviously that's one thing. It's a stranger, you won't see them again. Not saying the effect is any different or less, but you're not seeing that person again. Now, if it's your family member, now we're talking about a whole different scenario of how to heal. You can't tell a person or try to help them heal on something that it's in their face every day. Regardless if you're a child and it's an uncle or an aunt or a father or whatever it is, you can be 5, 10, 15, 20 years old. If that person's in your family, it makes the situation different, especially if it's family that you see on a regular basis. Or the rest of the family has to decide if they're going to not only believe what happened, but address it.
Right.
Okay. It could be your spouse. Your spouse may be raping you or doing any kind of sexual offenses that you may feel, it's wrong, what they're doing is not right, but what can you do? You may be in a religious situation. When I say religious, you may be very spiritual and in an organized religion where divorce is a sin. Or it may be cultural where it's like, you're the wife, you're supposed to allow him to do this to you. So what happens? How can you possibly heal when the situation is a current situation? It's not just past anymore. It's an ongoing situation and environment. It could be a situation where it's a teacher. Let's say we're talking about a child. Children know, if adults don't talk, you can imagine how many kids aren't talking. So, they may be scared to talk. So they're faced with it on a regular basis. So the point of what I'm saying is that healing starts with the acknowledgement that what has happened or what is happening is not acceptable and it's not excusable. You will not start to heal until you recognize that you are a victim. And in order for you to become a survivor, you have to heal in order to get that victim mentality out of you. You cannot do that when you are faced with the quote unquote, as I call it, trigger in your face every day. The person cannot be in your life. There is no way you can heal with the person being in your life that has abused you or has raped you or assaulted you and or is still currently doing it.
Right.
It's like they say with alcohol, with AA, the first step is to admit that you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't admit that you have a problem, you're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
If you don't admit that you're a victim of a crime, it's a crime. There's no gray area to it. Until you can admit that, you cannot start to heal.
Absolutely. I want to stop right there because you said something that makes a whole lot of sense, and I just hope and pray that we have a lot of men listening because a lot of men would say, um, that girl got issues, or something like that, but not knowing that that female have issues. And I don't like the word issues. I just say that the person have situations, have gone through situations,
Right.
or are going through situations, and the first thing they would say is, she's crazy, she's bad, she's crazy, she got issues. And it's not that, it's the fact that you may, like you said earlier, somebody said to you, you don't even look like you have gone through that. I remember I have somebody said it to me as well. And I have mentioned just recently that, my daughter's father has stabbed me. They was like, what? Because of who I am today, but it took a while for me to be where I'm at now. Back then I was a mess, a hot mess, as they would say. But nobody knew what this hot mess was actually going through, So even, what you're saying, it just brought it back to my head that a lot of people would just be like, I don't want to F with her. I don't want to deal with her because she got all this stuff going on, not knowing what my household was like growing up, not knowing, the uncle that came over that was drunk, I'm just throwing different scenarios out there, or
Right.
vice versa, that female that will touch me, whatever that female or
Mhm.
that male had gone through, you don't even know. We need to stop saying that this person have issues. We just need to know how to help them heal, and if you don't have that patience to help someone heal, then that's not the person that you need to be with.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head with the last comment you just said. If you're not the person that has that patience, because let's face it, there was a time that I still have issues, but there was a
Mhm.
time, especially dealing with that and the effects of what I went through, not realizing how much it was affecting me. Yeah, I had issues. I had issues. And the one thing though I have to say is that as I got older, you know, if you have someone that's willing to take you through those steps of healing,
Mhm.
and they have that patience, and not only do they have that patience, they have that awareness of what you need, that you don't know what you need. If you have that, you have a blessing and a half, because realistically, nobody needs to be your therapist.
Mhm.
And when I say therapist, I mean, you know, figuring things out for you. You have to want it for yourself.
That is true.
You can never bring anything to a relationship if you're dealing with being a victim to something and you haven't dealt with what you've been through, because nobody should have to take on abuse from you and you have that as an excuse or a reason.
Mhm.
We all have our reasons for stuff. It doesn't make it okay. And one of the things that are a huge effect for victims of rape and sexual assault are relationship issues, because they you don't deal with what you've been through and the psychology behind what you've been through and your feelings and emotions, and it affects your perception, and you bring that into a relationship.
Mhm.
you know your partner's supposed to help heal you and reassure you and give you comfort,
Mhm.
but they're not supposed to make up for what your rapist did.
Right.
And there was a time, I relate to this because I was in a relationship after that, one of my relationships, should I say. And unfortunately, every relationship I had, there was the same time of year. There was a long period of time. It was from August to December. You couldn't touch me, couldn't talk to me. It was like I just went into a shell.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's understandable. There's patience involved, you know, there was patience involved for my partner, but realistically, I wasn't doing nothing to help myself.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually that gets tired. There's only so much your partner has needs too.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be a line pretty much where before that line is you doing for yourself, and the other part is your partner comforting you, supporting you, giving you that boost that you need.
Right.
Same as what I was just talking about earlier. You need that from the person that you're with,
Mm-hmm.
or could be your mom, could be whoever it is. And not only are your personal relationships affected, but your friendships get affected.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're holding in this anger and this resentment, and you go through life with this feeling that, not all, because every victim is different, okay, but anger is there, whether it's displayed or not. It's there, and it's shown in different ways.
Right.
You have, you know, that comment where you hear men say she got issues. That's usually the comments of the females that have that attitude like the world owes them something because of what they went through.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a comment that I agree with necessarily. It's not the way to do it, but it also sends a message that yes, you do have issues, but you need to work on your issues, because you can't. Victims of rape and sexual assault already have a lack of control, the feeling of control, and they have a lack of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates so many issues down the line. You know, it creates misconceptions of social cues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it may be a situation where you can't even compliment her because she's going to take it like you're trying to take her pants off.
Right.
Which is why you have so many new laws on sexual harassment, especially in the workplace.
Right.
Because of this.
It's true. Are you frozen?
You know, you can't, if you're at work and a guy walks by you and he's on, you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You know, now the law is, and I agree with this, but at work, if someone walks by you and they're on their phone and there is an inappropriate picture on their phone, let's say they're videoing and you know, there's person on the phone is naked, or let's say they're looking at a picture of someone in a sexual manner, even though it's not your phone, the fact that you walk by them and they have that on their phone while they're looking at it, you can get fired for that.
Yeah.
Because I may have been a victim,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm taking it like, oh my God, he's a rapist.
Right.
He has the potential to rape because he's looking at pornography or crazy stuff on his phone at work. It's the perception of things. So there's so many psychological side effects to, you know, being a victim of sexual assault and rape. And these are lifelong side effects. Okay. If you have diabetes, you may have your diabetes controlled, but you have diabetes.
That's right. It's true.
You're a diabetic.
Right.
The condition didn't leave. The side effects are still there. When your sugar gets high, you have symptoms. When your sugar's low, you have symptoms. You may have symptoms even while it's controlled. The disease is there. And that is what I'm comparing to people to understand that these are psychological effects that are lifelong. And depending on the person dealing with these psychological effects, getting the help that's needed, getting the support and comfort that's needed in their current situation, just because they've dealt with it and they're strong about it, does not mean they don't still have the psychological effects.
That's true.
Do not get it twisted. I have psychological effects. I know exactly where. That's the one thing people need to understand. You know, healing process, aside from that first initial acknowledgement, you being a victim and being away from the offender or perpetrator, so to speak. See, I use terms you.
I don't know what's going on, but it seemed like this pros. It's
How the ruling
okay.
just. But you understand what I'm saying? It's the other thing. My charger just fell out.
So I see we have a comment as well. So I'm just gonna speak on this comment.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I wanna go to the comment really quickly while you're doing what you're doing. There's a I don't know if you know Brother Mark McPhee, but he's definitely on. He's listening, and he says, exactly. However, in some families, healing never begins because the incident is swept under the rug for decades, and that's so true. Then we have sometimes it's purposely kept from fathers and brothers for fear the men in the family will catch a case and go to jail. This is true. We have women and family hidden behind the Bible, making excuse, praying instead of taking appropriate action for the child. Then he also said praying the molestation away. I said this the other day. Don't always work. That child is still being attacked. Why are you not getting the child out of that situation? Is the question we had to ask one Bible quoting. You know what, Brother Mark, thank you for talking about that piece because I sure enough did speak on that the other day. Sometimes, you know, those who go to church, the first thing they say is, "Oh, I'm going to pray that everything is, and that's not just it. I think I was talking to the person about domestic violence, and they were saying sometimes it's going on in the church, as well as rape is going on in the church, and praying that it doesn't happen again, or pray for God to make it stop. Whatever it is that you're praying for, you still need help. And sometimes for me with the DV part, um, my husband would do something, I flinch, and it's not because he's trying to hit me. It's the fact that this is already in me, so, and you on mute. So even, my mom was a single parent and she was really strict. So going through that at home too, made me flinch. So I have a history of that type of, violence going on. You're on mute right now. Unmute yourself if you're speaking, Vita. Yeah, you're on mute. Okay, there you go. So, Brother Mark, thank you for bringing that up because you're absolutely correct. Um, why is it, another thing, why is it that when your children come and say they've been raped, a lot of the parents don't believe them, or whoever is the care person is, they don't believe them right away.
I honestly, as a mother, okay, I feel like this as a mother. I'd rather believe my child and they're lying than to not believe them and they're telling the truth.
Absolutely.
because I want my child to know that when it comes to your safety and well-being, I'm always going to have your back. Now, if I find out that you made this cockamamie story up after I done press charges or beat the crap out of whoever it is, okay, most likely it'll be the scenario B for me. Then I'm going to handle my child accordingly and also try to find out why. Where is that coming from? Because we don't want that to happen again. And you can really damage someone's life and reputation with a lie like that. But you have to know, I think a lot of these situations where mothers do that, they may have been raised being abused. And in their mind, they believe their kid, but it's kind of like, it's the pattern of in the family of what the mom has. I know situations. I know females that they are a pattern of being victims, and their mom was a victim, and grandma was a victim. So here's your child coming, and it's like, it's like saying, mommy, I have diarrhea.
Right.
Wipe yourself and flush it down the toilet. And it's sad, but that's the reality of many situations. As a mother, I will never understand it, no matter how much I've studied it and read up on it. I just did a case study where juveniles are sentenced to life, which is still legal in the US. It's illegal everywhere else, but in the US, it's legal to sentence a juvenile to life. And one of these cases, the 15-year-old murdered his stepfather and mother, and they call it cold blood. The stepfather was sexually abusing this boy for years. Him and his brother ended up moving out at 18 and becoming a doctor. He was still stuck at home, and now his only source of being able to deal and cope was his brother is gone. So he's the only victim. He's the only target to the stepfather. And his mother knew, and his mother was being abused by him. And she resented her own son because this man was abusing her. And what happened is exactly what happened. One night, took their brains out in their sleep.
Wow.
And he's sentenced to life. Never had a record for anything, never misbehaved in school. He was a well-behaved kid. And it makes you look at how much are we contributing to the crime with our own children for situations like this, because you're letting a man come into your home, a man. You won't even let the father get away with that crap, but you're letting your new man come in and take over the house. I'll never understand it, because me being a victim to that, I'm more protective of both my son and daughter.
That's right.
It's so serious for me that when he first went to first grade, excuse me, he only went one time. When he went to first grade and I was looking at a school for him, I asked them if they have private bathrooms and if they had, I didn't want him to use urinals. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, he doesn't use a urinal at home. I have a damn toilet. Okay, I'm very familiar with all that little boy curiosity, and luckily they had private bathrooms, but that's how paranoid I was. It was like I was petrified that one of these kids would would try to look at him.
Right.
And that's how I am. Like, I'll take a beating before I let my kids take it. Now, if my kids are exposed to any kind of negativity or violence, that's when you gotta go. Because what happens to me happens to them. And this is what parents don't understand that are in cycles of abuse. Somebody has to break the cycle.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. I definitely enjoyed the topic, the conversation, because a lot of us women want to be in love so badly that we forget that our little person that's in the other room came from us. but we want to be in love so badly that we just disregard what that little person said and or feel and take the word of the other individual. And that's crazy. When I came out, matter of fact, I never did. I never came out and told my mom what really happened until one particular night when he came into the room and he was butt naked. Right. So that particular night, who knows what would have happened that particular night. Um, and then that's when I think I said a little bit because she went and grabbed, she was the Medea. So you know what's the first thing Medea grabs, right? Besides her pocketbook, she grabbed another.
Mm-hmm.
So I told my mother, no, it didn't happen. No, no, no. But when I turned 20, I was in my 20s and I was working in this particular shelter, project return, and there was a young lady that came and she um confided in me and told me some stuff. It really hurt me because I was like, oh snap. I went through that as well, and I just got on the phone and called. And I'm saying this happened when I was probably in my double digits as a teen.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in my 20s, late 20s, and I finally told my mom. So it's, you carrying on, you carry that hurt, that pain, that scared, I was fearful. I was all of that at a young age. So can you imagine, when you're older, you're still trying to figure out who am I? What am I
Mm-hmm.
doing? What am I doing here? Like all these questions of doubt come to you when somebody takes something from you. Um, that particular night or nights, depending on the situation. It's sad, but these conversations always need to be talked about because somebody in the audience that hear me, that would say, you know what, I've gone through that with a brother, I've gone through that with my father or stepfather, whoever it was, you have gone through it. Or let's not forget girl on girl, boy on boy, things like that is going on as well. So these conversations openly need to be talked about and let people understand that you're not alone in this. I might not look like I'm going through this, but I have gone through it and I'm still going through it. Some people are not survivors as of yet, especially when you're still going through the trauma. You
Right.
just like you just trying to get from point A to point B, and it's messed up. It's I want to say it's really effed up. It's not just messed up, it's effed up. Um, for somebody to do things like that. And yes, it's true. Sometimes the the men in a household don't find out until years later. Like if you had a brother, your brother did not find out until years later. Why? Because you don't want your brother to go to jail. You don't want your brother to beat the crap out of the person, you know, but should you keep it away from the family? You said you spoke to your dad about it,
Way after though,
way after.
because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I knew that my dad was going to get physically sick off the thought that he shook hands with this man
Mm-hmm.
and didn't. My dad would have taken it like he was at fault
Right.
because he's supposed to protect and catch stuff like that.
Right.
So he's gonna feel like he let his guard down. My
Right.
dad was a man of a lot of pride, a lot,
Mm.
and I didn't want him to get sick over it. And then I knew he also would have went to jail.
Right. See? So Brother Mark was
My
absolutely
dad was no game. My dad walked around with his rifle if I brought a boy home, right on his side,
what?
just to, yeah. My dad was no joke, and I didn't tell him till way later when I had no choice.
Right.
Because then once I started to talk about it and press charges and go through the legal process, which was a few years later, there's no way of hiding it.
It's sad. It's so sad. There's a lot of sick people out there. We just have to keep our eyes and ears open. I was just telling my husband earlier that it was a young lady that went into the bank, and she had on a mesh outfit, but then she had on a G-string bathing suit, and granted, we can, we can wear whatever we want to wear. Yes, we can. But that's not going, you got to be mindful there's sick people out there. So the guy that went into the bank, he was standing behind her, he was looking. And then when she comes out the bank, she's not being mindful. He's walking right behind her. So me, who gone through these things, who used to work with sex offenders, I'm looking at this situation like, this is not good, but she just in her own little world, like, not, and it hurts me because I'm like, if I say something, would she tell me about my business? Or he would look at me like, so I was like, you know what? As I walk the other direction, I'm like, I'm saying to myself, just keep your eyes and ears open on her, Lord. That I couldn't really, I didn't know what else to say. Like, it's sad. It's so sad. I don't know. We really need to get out there and start talking about this more.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so many people that's going to come out and say, yes, I've gone through that. Almost a lot of men would say, I know so many females that gone through that. You should not be embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed. It's just something that happened to me that I feel like, oh my goodness, this happened to me. So it's so many men. I met, a lot of guys be like, you're not the first. I have heard that before. Yeah, but this happened to me.
Yeah, and I don't think, and this goes back to the question about the parents who are told there's something going on with their child and they don't listen or believe it. I think people have lost sight of the severity of things. When you look at, I've heard people tell me this craziest stuff with epilepsy. If I'm tabling it with disease the cure or talking about epilepsy, I've heard the most knucklehead comments because people want so bad to be able to feel a part of what you're doing and contribute that all they have is a comment and they don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking. Yeah, I know somebody everybody knows someone who's been raped or sexually assaulted. Who the hell in the world has not known someone? You don't know the effect. You don't know how deep it goes unless it's happened to you or unless it's happened to someone you loved, that you had to be a part of that whole process. I get really frustrated when people are always trying to act like they've been through something when they know for a damn fact they have no idea what they're talking about. And you see that a lot with grown people. I always say, when you're old, when you're sitting with your friends and you're all comparing medical conditions, like, but you always have in a crowded room. Oh yeah, I know, I have that. I've had it with the epilepsy. Oh yeah, I know what that is. And they're describing a whole different condition. It's like people have to feel like they're offering something. If you don't know, just don't know. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. That's the point of awareness. So what you don't know, you can know. You're not going to learn if you're acting like you know everything and you're insulting someone who's been through it. I had this conversation about last week. I was talking to a friend and he made a comment that I forgot the exact comment. And he's the type of person that he's very playful. But the comment it's like he forgot that I've been through what I've been through. And just because I'm very funny and sarcastic and playful, it's like he forgot that's not funny.
Right.
And when he said it, I was like, yo, excuse me. Like my eyes came out my sockets. You know, anybody that knows me, my eyes get big, my mouth starts going, and my nostrils flare, and I get red. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I said, let me ask you something. Let me, I'm gonna break this down to you. When you're raped, you may not understand this, but a big part of you is taken. Your identity is taken from you. Someone took over your body and you couldn't defend yourself. That was taken from you. You may not understand what that feels like, but let me ask you this. How would you feel if somebody took your anatomy from you? We know how men feel about their anatomy. Let's talk about the gender differences, okay? Men, men have a thing with their anatomy. Small, big, whatever, you have it. What if one day someone took that from you and you were walking around a man with nothing down there? And he was just quiet. That's exactly what we go through as women when we don't have that down there, but our dignity was taken. Speechless. Because, and it all goes back to the same thing. People do not realize there's a difference between understanding and relating. You're never going to understand unless you relate. And you're not wrong for not understanding. You're not wrong for that. But have a little sense. You still there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I mean, have a little sense. Okay, we're in a movement right now for Black Lives Matter. Would you accept someone calling you a nigga out their mouth?
Right.
Or anything that's a racial slur or displays any kind of racism? You would take that personal, right? Why is it any different for anyone, woman, men, children, dogs? I don't care who you are. If you're assaulted or you're raped, that's not something to joke about.
It's true.
There's no joking in that.
Right. Now, I want to say, we already know, well, those who don't know, rape has been a part of our history for a very, very long time. When we went to the American Black Wax Museum out there in Baltimore, it was enlightening. And it wasn't enlightening, it was enlightening on the fact of the educational piece, but it was hurting. It hurt me, you know, back in slavery days, that big old shit, Caucasian man will rape the woman and, do whatever he take cut the man's penis off. We saw all of that while we was there. Belittle him, degrade her. So, and then we came back home, we started watching the show, the movie called Buck Breaker or Buck Break. Buck, not Butt, Buck. And it helped me understand. And this is crazy to say, but it helped me understand why men rape women. Because this is what they have gone through. This is what they went through with the white man. White man will rape them. So they're thinking this is the way to go. They start raping the women. Right? So it helped me. I really want people to understand that is not in our culture, but it was a learned behavior that was brought into our culture. It can be unlearned, but I think it's so too many years have gone by. So I want people to watch that show, Buck Breaker or Buck Break, something like that. Watch that on, I think we watched it on YouTube or some channel,
Mhm.
and it really, wow. From coming from the wax museum
Mhm.
and watching that, yeah, I truly understand. Is it right? Hell no, it's not right. Can you imagine what those men had gone through? Being raped or being, beaten, degraded, and they got psychological issues too.
Absolutely.
You
You
know,
have men who are in prison
I was going to say
and
that. I was going to mention
and
that
they
too.
come out.
Yes, yes, yes. And you just have to be patient, you know, with especially the brothers that come home, you know, um, understand, do your research, ask questions, all that belittling that person, he or she, because women get locked up too, you know, um, I, we have to find a way how to heal. And healing starts with communicating with one another. One be quiet, will one speak. One speak, one listen, and it keep going. Same with you and I. I'm speaking, you're listening. You spoke, that's the way we have to be in a circle of love, understanding, communicating, um, trying to appreciate one another, accepting one another, accepting their thoughts. It's a process. My husband and I, we have the process going on. I never been married before. So we have a process thing going on as well. He came from another place. I came from where I'm at. And our culture, backgrounds, we're black, yeah, but he was brought up one way. I was brought up another way. I was on defense mode. He's on defense mode, but his is from the streets. Mine's is from hurt and pain. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And people that you love, you just have to have that understanding, that patience. You know, um, sometimes when we come and say this is what happened to us, we don't need the uproar. We don't need the uproar. We don't need that. Oh my God, we're gonna get that motherfucker. No, we don't need that right now. I need you to be supportive for me. And this is going to this message is for families, brothers, uncles, dads, whoever that's in that person's life that their child come to them and say, this is what happened.
Right.
Give them that hug, give them that love. And then we talk about the other thing later. you
Right.
know, just recently, the other day, somebody from Queens, a guy was trying to, I think they said rape a girl, 11-year old, broad daylight. We got to start giving them, if we need to start giving them taser gun, listen, we got to do something. You know, it's rough out here, and the streets today is different. It's way worse. It was worse back then, but it's way worse now.
Mhm.
We have to teach our children, keep their eyes and ears open. Somebody following you, go somewhere, a bunch of crowds, whatever. We got to give them tools. We got to give them tools because we know, you and I know what that feels like. We know that we need to protect our children, because this individual was in the household for me, right? So after that, my mom became really, really overprotective over all her daughters, and I'm the oldest of all of them. So it's it's something that we got to work on, and I'm hoping people hear what we're talking about, the topic, the discussion, the previous conversations we had on Facebook Live. We going live Facebook because this is the social media platform that people need to hear these things. Okay, fine. You see pictures of what I ate today, what I did today. Yeah, but we need to talk about real topics that get you to say, oh my God, I need to reach out to one of them because this happened to me.
And this is the problem I'm seeing with social media. If it's not certain things, nobody's paying attention. It's not important. You know, I have close to 5,000 friends on my page. How many of them are tuned into this? Let's look at the numbers when we hang up and talk.
Mm.
Okay. But how many are how many are liking a selfie that I put? And let me tell you, I post pictures of myself for one reason. There was a time that I wouldn't go in front of a camera. I suffered a lot of weight issues from insecurities, and I had lost 100 pounds. And once I lost that weight, I started becoming more comfortable with the camera. Sometimes I'll take a picture because you may think I'm loving myself, but that day I'm really hating myself. And I had to remind myself by taking a picture that, you know, you are pretty, or you are a good person, or whatever it is, you know, that's something that I've always struggled with. And I say that because it's like with social media, it's kind of, it become like a business. You have to have a business mind with it. You have to know the audience you're trying to target.
Exactly.
Having a regular general Facebook page, you're not targeting a specific audience for something like this. We have to go into the groups that and organizations that deal just with this. I learned that with the epilepsy, the organization that I've started, and I'm still learning. I'm just getting my feet wet, but I had to learn. Like, I correlate the music with it, and I tell people, artists, you know, if we're gonna perform this, and this is about the cause, we need to go. I don't want to go to no regular hip hop event.
Right.
What do they care about a song about epilepsy? Are they really listening, or are they just watching to see who look like what and who has swag and you know, networking and talking all this crap that I have? I have a horrible opinion because I've been doing this too long, and it's like my interests have changed. I want to be about a cause. If I'm going to have a radio show, I want to do my radio show about a cause. I don't want to sit there and just talk garbage all day. I don't have time for that. So call me stuck up. I've earned that. If I feel like I'm better than that, I've earned that. Okay. Yeah, I have an attitude. I've earned that. And this all comes into healing. This all comes into healing because there was a time I had no voice, and I felt that I was a punching bag for any man that walked in my life, and I had to always be the better one and tolerate the crap that came at me because someone took my only dignity from me. I didn't know how to have any kind of decision making for myself.
Wow.
If you decided to take a part of my body that's covered and I couldn't fight that, why? How can I make any kind of decisions for myself?
Right.
I'm used goods. That's all I'm gonna get. Why would a real man want me? And it's like we don't even realize this is how we're thinking. Mind you, Sherneice, I have about 18 bullet points to discuss as part of psychological effects. I love it because I think I touched on 2 in depth. Because this is the beauty of non-scripted conversation. And you know, people think of a workshop, and this may be something to think about. Maybe the word workshop tunes people away, because a workshop is a lot of fact giving and, you know, watching something and note taking, and maybe that word could be, you know, changed a little bit
Maybe we should
to kind of grab the attention.
Right.
I want it to be where it's a discussion. I don't want to feel like I'm a professor. So, you know, that's something we could talk about, because it just came to my brain right now. And I had 18 things. I love it, because you know what? Now it gets me motivated for the next one. Okay, we're going to continue. We touched today on the first main tool for healing is 1, acknowledging that you're a victim. And 2, getting away from the person that is harming you. You're never going to heal if that person is around you.
Right.
Those are the 2 priority ones, and then everything else follows from that, and we'll get into that the next one, because I see time is already ticking. I have class soon.
Word. Okay. Listen, this is good stuff, because yes, I still got to write a paper, but this is great, you know. And I definitely appreciate school, because by me taking up business, I mean, I got a call from my mentor that was like, so what do you need help with? Grants? You need help with that? And I'm like, yes, because my goal is blah, 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 which everybody knows, the single woman shelter. And she was like, awesome, we're gonna work this out. And my professor was like, listen, Miss Gatewood, if you need me and you're not in school no more, you can still email me. I still reach out. And I'm like, you know, that support makes you feel good. You know, that and I'm saying just that school, that people don't even know me. They just only see my grades, and they like, you know, we want to support you. And this is how we, you and I feel when it come down to the people that say they love us, say they like us, say, hey, that song was dope. Hey, that book was dope. But where are you right now? Because that song that I wrote, talking about you, not me, because I don't know how to sing. That song that you wrote is talking about your life, something that happened in your life, just like Mary J. Blige. And that's a big old compliment. I just compared you with Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige just had her whole life documentary on, and she was going through major things, and she wrote great songs. So once again, you're saying to yourself, and look where she's at. She got millions and millions of dollars.
I haven't seen that documentary, but I love me some Mary J. Blige.
See, I didn't even know.
Thank you.
But at the end of the day, you see, what I want you to understand is she probably said to herself, why am I doing this? I'm sure all of us probably thought that way. Why am I doing this? Until the bigger picture happens. So with that, I'm gonna say peace to everybody. I want everybody
to
stay tuned. We are some educated women.
That's right. You know what, Sherneice? We're gonna have a nerd day. We're gonna get some wine and go to the park with our laptops and do papers.
Oh my goodness, I would love it, love it, love it. Because I be sitting in this house, I'd be like, I'm tired. So
people don't understand. I get so frustrated. They're like, "You're still doing homework?" I'm like,
listen, if I didn't have to.
This is a doctorate degree. How do you think people become doctors? By having a 1 hour homework at night? This is something, no, but you know, we understand this.
That's right. Yes. So keep up with your great work that you're doing, and make sure you protect your baby girl.
Oh, hell yeah.
Your big son. I saw the pictures. Right. I just saw his birthday party that y'all did. So you're doing wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes. And we're going to keep this going.
That's right. We have a lot to talk about, a lot of information to give. So
all right. So tell everybody who you are and what you know, all that good stuff.
Again, my name is Tara Gibson. Some know me as TJ Vita. And you can reach me on Facebook, TJ Vita, or Instagram, TJ_Vita. You can reach me by email, I'll give you the Secure email. It's C's SEIZETHECURE, the number 4 epilepsy at gmail.com. And my phone number 347-797-8938. I'm here to help anyone that I could possibly help. So just reach out to me. Sherneice, I want to thank you for making me a part of this, because I've done nothing but have a good time with something that's negative, making it positive.
That's right. There you go. And once again, thank you for doing this. With me with domestic violence, once again, I turned that negative thing that happened in my life into something positive as
Mm-hmm.
well. So speaking of something positive, we are phenomenal women. We are right now is we are collecting shoes. We are collecting shoes, 25 pairs of shoes. If you have it, 5 pairs, 10 pairs, it doesn't matter. If you have shoes, please feel free to go on our website, we are phenomenalwoman.com, and let us know where you're at. We got a few ladies that actually are in different locations, Queens, Bronx, and I'm in Harlem. We will pick up those shoes or meet you somewhere to pick up the shoes from you. And those shoes are going to Haiti at the end of this month. I thought it was Sunday. I was so happy, like, woo woo, they come to get these shoes. But please feel free to reach out. We are phenomenalwoman.com. I want to say peace to everybody. Tara, thank you so much. And I'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Peace.
Peace.